All right. Shalom Israel. Shalom to those in house as well as those that are online. Happy and blessed Sabbath to everyone, and hope everyone is well. And here we are, me and Thumb in the lion's den. You know, in the lion's den. So, you know, today's topic is preparedness and faith, and it was certain things are moving in the spirit with us at MOTC because last week Rasha gave his lesson and beautiful lesson, but he really touched on a lot on faith. And I was like, wow, that's exactly what how I was preparing and kind of putting my spirit into as well. And then this morning, ICOR did DSTM, and he hit on a lot of topics as far as preparing. So I was like, wow, this is on top. This is Most High got us definitely locked into the spirit, and it's something that we need to to share to our people because if anything, we definitely have to be in the spirit of preparedness as well as in the faith. We know our faith lies in the Most High. We're gonna put all our faith in the Most High, but we also have to start preparing for certain things that can happen. Okay. And we know that, right now the weather is kind of leveling off a little bit, but earlier part of it, but a couple of months ago, they had a lot of tornadoes. Uh, even out here, we felt the little earth shake a little bit. So we know about earthquakes. We talking about national disasters that's happening. Just to prepare yourself and have something right in order, and be in the thought as well as having certain things that you can fall back on. Okay, we definitely gonna fall back on our faith because we are faith-giving people. Now, by us understanding the Sabbath days, understanding the feast days, we know that our faith is solid. So now, on the physical side, we want to start getting certain things in order. You know, like I said, just in case we need to fall back on. So I'm gonna play these videos real quick. Just some little bits of the video, and just to make you think, as the brother said. So I'm gonna go to that first one, Q, the one with the black swan.
Think there's gonna be another black swan? Of course, 100%. I just don't know exactly what it is. The only one that's gonna be an interesting one.
So he said, "You think there's gonna be a black swan?" He said, 100%. Now DSTM, our court brought out earlier. He was like, "You know what? We gotta be watchful for a black swan event." So if we have to be watching for that, then we have to also have something in place and be prepared for that. Now, it could be a number of things. It could be, they coming out with the vid, another one, because, like you said earlier, in this DSTM, that bird flu is on the move, right? It could be, Black Swan event could be in their financial system. Okay, we know that the banks are in trouble. So now this man is actually part of, the quote unquote economic, I would say, company that he knows that something is going to happen. And they always pull out a black swan event when things get really hectic or when they backs up against the wall. Okay, go ahead, Q, please.
One to watch, and I don't even know how he calls a black swan because I feel like black swan by definition can't really be. It's like predicted. Oh, didn't see that happening.
Yeah.
The U.S. government is going after
a black swan should be like you didn't see it happening. It can't be predicted, but they are predicting there is going to be a black swan, but they don't know when. Right, but that's the whole thing about the black swan. You don't know when, but it comes unexpected. But we don't know, like I said, in what fashion they are going to pull this thing off with. So preparedness, number one, should be always on our mind. And there's one thing that another economist said. He said that we should enjoy this summer, and I agree with him. And he went on and said that he's going to take this big trip with him and his family, and he's going to splurge. He want to really just go all out for his family. They have a good time. They want to eat whatever they want to eat. And he was telling then, after he said what he was saying, he said, and I advise everybody enjoy this summer because after this, He said that, things are gonna happen. Things are gonna definitely turn, for not really for the worse, but things are gonna happen to a point where it's gonna be wow, it's unbelievable. We already seeing inflation. Okay, we already seeing how, like I said before, they're talking about the banks closing. We already seeing war over in the Caribbean, down there by Cuba. We already seeing other nations pulling away from the dollar. I mean, all of these things are occurring. All of these things are brewing up, and here we are going into the summer. And as we enter this summer, like you said, enjoy it because after this election, things are going to change, but not like boom. It's just going to be a slow, not really a slow drip, because we are on a slow drip now. The faucet is going to be turned. It's going to be a flow that started coming through because they already have the agenda. There's a couple of things I have written down. It's the BRICS just had their summit, okay, just before going into the summer. G7, they just had their summit. Now they getting together and they plotting and they actually putting their allies together, saying that this is our plan, this is what we're going to do. But none of us have any say-so about it. Because why? Because it's behind closed doors. Then if you look at this, Saudi Arabia, right? They coming off the petrodollar. They're not signing no more contracts for that no more. And that was how things was being bought around the world, because oil is the number one thing that moves this world, believe it or not. So they had an agreement that in order to buy their oil, the other countries, what they had to do was purchase American dollars, right? Have it circulate to Saudi Arabia, and then Saudi Arabia give them oil based upon American dollars. Well, that's no longer happening anymore. That just a few days ago. So, and that's major, because now that means that the dollar is losing more strength. Okay. Then you have all these other things that's happening right now. I was just talking to Iyakor about the distractions. I hate to mention it, but it's funny. It's this Young Thug case that's going on. I mean, it is hilarious. They in the courtroom doing things unheard of. And then they got another distraction. They have the other distraction of dealing with Trump, in his case. So they're distracting the people away from what they need to be concentrated on, and that is really gathering their information and really preparing themselves for what may happen with this Black Swan event. So I'm going to go into some history as well as dealing with the scriptures and how Joseph had the Most High set him in order and set things up with him. Okay. Go ahead and play that.
Tether. Like that is clear to me. I view Tether as a very important part of the ecosystem.
There could be volatility in markets as expected.
Stop. You can go to the next one. Now remember, he said Black Swan event. So now I'm gonna move from Black Swan event. Now I'm gonna move into should we be prepared? Or you should be scared. Put it that way. Go ahead.
Nobody could do this to print money without consequence, but we could. We could.
Listen to what Kennedy is saying right here. It's very important, because what he's trying to stir up things too and distract people as well. But when you have to really listen to these, because these people are in the know, they know what's going on, and then they just happen to be, running off at the mouth what he said, but he's actually telling us what these secret meetings are about. Okay, go ahead.
That is, until recently, that privilege depended on the special status of the dollar, the cornerstone of America's dominance. But today, that status is crumbling. No longer can we rely on the imperial dollar to compensate for the loss of our industrial base. No longer can we rely on it to fund our deficits. Realpolitik requires that we face up to that fact, that new reality. The more we try to hold on to the past, the more we hasten the day of reckoning, the apocalyptical day of reckoning. Already, by weaponizing the dollar, we've accelerated its decline. Russia has become nearly immune to our sanctions. China is rapidly establishing the yuan as an international trade.
So he said Russia has come totally immune of our sanctions. Russia as well, because why? Because they have the BRICS now that they're formulating. So they're working around the US and the US dollar, but also they're gathering allies over in Africa. Okay, they got North Korea. I mean, they got some serious allies. And our people are sitting back watching social media all day, trying to make videos. And this thing is really, really happening. So when I sit back and I kind of gather up my thoughts and write down certain things, that's when the faith aspect comes in. And that's when I started to go and start reading the history about how the Most High dealt with his people during these tragic times, during these captivity times that the children of Israel found ourselves in. You know, our forefathers. Now we finding ourselves in this captivity dealing with America, but things are happening and they're going to increase at a great next speed as soon as this election starts. Because it's over, because that agenda 7 or G7 that they have. I'm sorry, the agenda 21. With agenda 21, our court went over how they are ready to structure this thing and how they're ready to put this thing into place. 21, okay, agenda 30, you're right, agenda 30. But agenda 21, they've already accomplished that. If you look at it, they already accomplished it. They took us from when they used to issue us a piece of paper as our paycheck. Now we have to have direct deposit. And you're right, this a couple of years ago on her job. They were sending her paychecks, then they stopped. They said, you got to get direct deposit. Then she used to fill out her paperwork and her hours. Then they stopped that paperwork and say, you have to go online and you got to fill in your hours. So that agenda 21 is definitely in there. So like you said, agenda 30, that's what we're walking through right now. That's exactly what we're walking through. And a part of that is definitely taking the cash money, physical cash money, out of the system. They want that out of the system. And then once that happens, then we know that that's when all the data that they have on us, we locked in, period. We're locked in now, but we completely locked in. Okay. At least we can move around with a little cash, this, that, and other. They don't know nothing about it. But once that has already taken place and that part of the agenda has been done, then they have a list of how many times you use your credit card, your debit card, and then how you're going forward with that, they can start cutting you off with, like they say, you're buying too much meat or you're buying too much, let's say, sugar for your diet. All of these things start to take place, and it's already submitted in Agenda 30. How we live, where are we going to live? How far are we going to go as far as traveling from our house to the jobs? So listen to Kennedy and what he's saying about the dollar. Go ahead. Back up just a little.
To fund our deficits, realpolitik requires that we face up to that fact, that new reality. The more we try to hold on to the past, the more we hasten the day of reckoning, the apocalyptical day of reckoning. Already, by weaponizing the dollar, we've accelerated its decline. Russia has become nearly immune to our sanctions. China is rapidly establishing the yuan as an international trade currency. The BRICS just last week launched their Enbridge settlements platform that uses blockchain technology to bypass SWIFT. 2 days ago, the Saudis announced their decision not to renew their 50-year petrodollar deal with the United States. Another step on the long road toward de-dollarization. Now, I don't want to overstate the case. The dollar still remains the world's dominant currency. If we want to keep it that way, we have to stop using it as a bludgeon. The way to keep the dollar strong is to keep the country strong. We can do that by redirecting our bloated military budget toward infrastructure, education, and health, and building our economy and building small business, which is the.
So now he's telling us what could happen, but that's not what America wants. America wants war. They said, nah, we can do that, but we think it's better if we go to war. Because why? Because then they can do more of what they plan underneath where we won't know about it, but all of a sudden we're facing it. It's like the immigrants that came over, right? How they allowed them to come over and come into the country. Okay, so they want war. Yeah, they can, like you said, they can cut back on the military spending and start focusing on small businesses. But that's not it, because during, the vid, that was their whole agenda, was to close down the small businesses, and they accomplished it. And a lot of them say, you know what, it ain't even worth coming back, and they don't even have the finance to come back now because inflation is so high. Then they changed the minimum wage in certain states, so they can't even afford their employees. So there's no coming back for the small business. Go ahead.
The greatest economic engine in history, American middle class and American small business.
No offense, but if you still think stocks, real estate, or crypto are the best passive income investments,
Business.
Going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that.
Yeah, skip up. And one of the reasons why I'm bringing this out is because, like I said, it's just so much information is put out there that I had to cipher through and try to keep the most important so that I can actually deliver it and deliver this message to our people so they can be aware of it. Because these things, we're already walking through them. And that's why when that cat said, enjoy your summer, well, I'll tell you what, we better take heed to that and enjoy the summer. Okay, you got it.
Especially in the times that we're in right now. And 2024 is going to be one of our most entertaining years. We have the presidential election. We have the drums are beating. We have the emerging markets going to be flipping the switch on the fourth industrial revolution. Now, we had the Fed signal rate cuts, but remember, guys, they haven't cut rates yet. So we know the master magicians are about to set up that distraction. So therefore, they can cut rates while we still have inflation. And in the fourth quarter, once the election is over.
Now I know his voice sounds funny, but I got used to it. But he tells the truth. He tells the truth, like he said. It's just they're moving forward. That's why he says, "Hey, prepare yourself." Okay, go ahead, Q.
No, the movie begins. And also, guys, I want to thank those who purchased the
13. And listen to what he said, what Europe is doing to the dollar. Okay. The Black John Wayne. Yeah, it's 13. Now, what's happening while we moving forward, what's happening now is what Europe is actually doing against the dollar. See, everybody's attacking the dollar. But when that happens, then we have to look at ourselves like, okay, where do we stand? Matter of fact, to be honest with you, a lot of our people just don't even know. Let me ask Crossroom, how many people understand what would happen if once this dollar starts to decrease? Anybody know? Have you been keeping up with it a little bit? No? See, that's what I'm saying. So what happens is this, inflation. It's going to cost more dollars to buy that can of with that bottle of milk. If milk is $7 now, once the dollar starts to get weakening and how they weakening the dollar more and more, then people start dumping the dollars. The dollars start to come back to the U.S. And then all of the products that we buy at the grocery store, gas prices, everything else, it takes more because they got an overflow of the dollars. So now they can't do nothing but raise up interest rates and raise up the prices on everything because nobody wants to deal with the dollar but America, because the dollar is worldwide. But it's going to take a while before that happens, right? But the stage is set, okay? Just listen to what they're doing over in Europe. Go ahead, Art.
Politicians will accept any dollar. I don't care where it comes from. Remember, politicians are nothing but paid puppets. But the real news, guys, is that we have the new U.S. sanctions force the end of the dollar and euro trading on Russia's main exchange. Okay, and of course, who's going to take the...
Now, what's happening is Russia is dumping the dollar, the euro and the dollar. And Russia is going right. They're going right back to the BRICS. Okay, so what they're telling their people in their countries is, listen, if you got any dollars, guess what? You go to the bank and you exchange those. Get rid of them. Okay, go ahead.
The place of that digital yuan. Guys, we're seeing the torch being passed from the United States over to China right in front of your eyes. And remember, it's all from the central banks. All these countries are working together to move us over to a level playing field The only part, guys, is they want humanity out of the workforce and bring in the machines. And the same thing when it comes to energy. They want us off the grid because they know these machines are going to be using the grid. When it comes to cell phones, they want us off the towers because we know the machines need to use the towers. They want us using the satellites. But in the emerging markets, majority of them still need to use oil. They still need to use the same energy sources they've been using. But in the United States, of course, they can change our energy. It's a whole lot easier because we have the infrastructure. But you definitely want to get yourselves in position for the transition over to the fourth industrial revolution. Like I stated, the sheep are distracted on things that don't matter. They're watching a basketball game, and we're clearly seeing the dollar coming to an end as the world reserve currency. This is unbelievable. You can't make this stuff up. We're just repeating history. But what do we learn from history? No one learns from history. We have several companies on the stock market that are worth over $3 trillion. I call that a monopoly. That would have never happened during the 50s and 70s. But our young people are bogged down in debt. That's the reason why college is so expensive. To put them in debt, they don't have time to do any protesting. All this protesting you see now is all orchestrated and paid for. And remember, the crypto teacher tells you. Because
Okay. So now, just to put that out, you can go back and listen to for yourselves. And I know it's a lot to take in, but I've been listening to this cat for the last 3 years. And it took me a while to understand where he was coming from, because he basically understands the crypto world and how certain cryptos are and how to buy, certain, who's on top, who's on bottom, who's going out, who's coming in, So he's on top of it. So about 3 years I've been listening to this cat. And also he's an Israelite. He has a book. I bought his book. And he knows that he's an Israelite. And he tried to put certain scriptures in there that, to expose our people and let our people know as well. But it's just that, like I said, it's so much information and there's so much going on. The distraction is there. So hopefully my message can get people prepared, as well as prepare you on the physical side and prepare your faith, okay? And we're going to continue. Our course study putting out good content on Don't Shoot the Messenger. A lot of content. You got to go back and just listen to certain articles that he bring out. And then guess what? That didn't pass. And here come a new thing, okay? Let's get Ezekiel. Ezekiel chapter 3 and verse 11.
Book of Ezekiel, chapter 3, and verse 11. And go, get thee to them of the captivity, unto the children of thy people, and speak unto them, and tell them, thus saith the Lord God.
So tell them, thus saith the Lord God. Like I said, we study going to put out our content. We study going to try to bring what's actually taking place, and how it's going to affect the children of Israel. The whole world, yes, but as we go into a little history, remember everything revolves around the children of Israel, period. Go ahead.
Whether they will hear or whether they will forbear.
See, whether they will hear or whether they forbear, whether they take heed or not, right? He told Ezekiel to get into the captivity of thy people. So we have to keep bringing out, we have to keep knocking on our sisters and brothers' head, be like, hey, wake up, don't fall asleep. This is happening. They got Russia got ships over in Cuba. Like I always said, that's 30 miles out. Hell, you can see them, they're 30 miles out. So they're there and things are happening. Go ahead. Whether they what?
Whether they hear or whether they forbear.
Or whether they forbear. Stay in Ezekiel and let's get 37 and 9. So he said, get to them, and whether he said, tell them whether they hear or whether they forbear, whether they take heed of it or not. And he had brought out also Ezekiel about warning the people and how that as long as we warn them, then their blood is not on our hands, because we forewarn the people what's actually coming down the pipeline and what our enemies are doing. Okay, 37 and 9.
Book of Ezekiel chapter 37 and verse 9. Then said he unto me, prophesy unto the wind,
Right.
prophesy, son of man, and say to the wind, thus saith the Lord God, come from the four winds, O breath, and breathe upon these slain, that they may live.
Right, and breathe upon them. We know that this is dealing with the valley of dry bones. We understand that. But also our people are dead to what's happening on a financial level. They're dead on what's happened on a spiritual level. They're dead in their faith. I mean, we're just completely, dead. But a lot of our people, right, and there's a lot of camps that's actually putting out this truth and trying to formulate what thus said the Lord according to the laws in the times we're living in. Social media, like you say, it's a distraction, but also we're on there, we're putting content out there that will help our people to wake up. And Israel is waking up, I kid you not, because there's a lot of sisters and brothers that are looking at certain history, and they come out with certain skits in social media, and I didn't even know. And they're actually looking up these historical things that happened to our people and bringing out content to say, well, did you know this happened? Black Wall Street and things like that. So we definitely understanding what's happening, but to what level of that faith is going to have to come in. See, we can know, but then we're also going to have to fall back upon our faith as well. Okay, let's get Hosea. Let's get the famous Hosea, chapter 4 and verse 6.
Book of Hosea, chapter 4, and verse 6.
So he said, speak to them people. So even speak unto these slain, so that they may live. Because when these things starts to happen, number one, the media is going to put out their perspective about it. Then you're going to have everybody and their mama on really, literally everybody and their mama on social media giving their perspective of what's happening. Then you're going to have us Israelites giving our perspective on what's happening. But we can back ours up with historical events as well as with prophecy. Okay, go ahead.
Verse 6. My people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. Because thou hast rejected knowledge, I will also reject thee. That thou shalt be no priest to me.
Right. So the Most High said that he would reject us at a certain time. But that time has passed. Because now we're beginning to understand that we're Israel. Not only that, but you got pastors implementing their sermons, telling their congregation that, yes, you know what, they slide it in. We are the children of Israel. But then they'll fall back on the Christianity agenda. Put it that way. Yeah, the agenda. But then we have to understand, like, okay, since our people are waking up, and these bones are living. We are giving this message. And like you say, but he said that our people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. And this is the knowledge that, like I played earlier with, got to give credit to the brother, crypto teacher, because he bring out, as well as DSTM, bring out a lot of content that we need to be aware of. Okay, we really, truly need to be aware of. But let me just go through a little list too of certain things that our people just need to be aware of and just have in your house. Real quick little list. And then I'm going to try to get into some history, because the Most High, when he gave faith to the children of Israel, he's always said, have faith in me and no other gods before me. Okay. So let's see. Number one, I got down some of these essentials. Water. Okay. Just try to have as much water as you can around your house. Okay. Just going to go real quick. Fire. Have some candles. Have some lights, some matches. Have some lighters. Okay. Food. You can have, canned goods and whatever else that you feel that you need to stock up on. Now go with your spirit. Whatever that you like, just make sure you have a little extra in the house, period. A bug out bag. A bug out bag is sort of like a backpack that you have certain essentials in that can get you, let's say, through 2 days. Hopefully you have enough in there to get you through a week, but let's say they can get you through 2 days. And the reason being is this. Let's say you at work, and if this black swan event happens, and we already know that the freeways are going to be jam-packed. Everybody's trying to get home. So you may have to leave your car, and you may have to just start on foot. So you may want to make sure that you have some gym shoes in your car, or some comfortable walking shoes, or whatever that you need, right? Keep that in your car along with your bug out bag. Like I said, a can of corn or beans or whatever the case may be, because it may take you 8 hours or it may take you a day from wherever you work at to get home. Okay, so you need a bug out bag. Another thing you need to communication. You know, you need to have some type of communication, some type of, you know, walkie-talkie or radio, you know, so you can keep up with what's going on or what's happening. You know, a meetup area for your family. You know, you need to talk about that. First aid kit. You know, you need to have multiple first aid kits around the house and make sure that, you know, each one of them are different from the other, but at least to have them nearby. All right. Weapons. Definitely need weapons. It's one thing I was just thinking about. I live close to the freeway. I said, boy, if something would happen, and you know, and people be sitting on the freeway after they didn't sit there 4 or 5 hours, and they know that, you know what, this ain't gonna work. What they're gonna do? They're gonna come out of their cars and they're gonna go start going into the neighborhoods. All right, asking for help. And I sat back and I thought about that. I mean, I'm right close to the freeway, and that's a very good possibility that that's what's going to happen. People are going to be abandon their cars. They're going to come off the freeways and they're going to start going into the neighborhoods, knocking on doors. Help me. You got to I can call, you know, my family, let them know okay, or blah, 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 whatever the case may be. But yes, that's a big possibility. So you need some type of weapons to protect you and your family. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna stop there. You know, and medicine. You know, if you on some type of meds or anything like that, they always tell you to have certain meds. Okay, those are the simple things that you should really start to work on if you don't have them already. But you know, once again, it's things to think about. Let's get Psalms. Psalms chapter 11, 111 and 5. 111 and 5. 111 and 5. Because as when we started going into Genesis, start dealing with Joseph, then we're going to see how the Most High dealt with Joseph. And one thing too is that if we find ourselves in a predicament where, you know, they coming after the Israelites, we have to also be prepared as well, as far as faith, as far as believing in the Most High, you know, that He can redeem us from what situation that we may be in. You know, all of these things we have to start preparing, man, and preparing our spirit for it. Okay. 111 and 5.
Verse 5. He hath given meat unto them that fear him. He will ever be mindful of his covenant.
See, he will ever be mindful of his covenant. He made a covenant with the children of Israel, and he said he will be ever minded of his covenant. Okay. That's one thing we also got to remember when we find ourselves in certain situations. He will protect the children of Israel. Okay, now let's go to Genesis. Let's see what he did for Joseph. Genesis chapter 39. Let's go to Genesis chapter 39. Now I'm gonna set this up because number one, during the time of Joseph, when he was going through his trials, right, his brothers took him and they sold him. And then when they sold him, the Ishmaelites picked him up, right? Mennonites, picked him up. And then they took him to Egypt and they sold him, right? So let me see where I want to pick this up at. Let me see. It's 39. I said 39, right? Mm-hmm. 39 and now this is the whole thing. Now this is the faith building that we have. And we go back into the history and we start reading about, okay, our forefather, let's say it said Joseph, was in a certain situation where he had no control. But down the line, we know that Joseph became a mighty leader. Okay, read that. Verse 1 down through 4.
Book of Genesis chapter 39 and verse 1. And Joseph was brought down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, an Egyptian, bought him of the hands of the Ishmaelites, which had brought him down thither. Mm-hmm. And the Lord was with Joseph, and he was a prosperous man.
Right there. So he said the Lord was with Joseph, and he was a prosperous man. Now we're going to watch. I'm going to show you this prosperity that the Most High had his hands on Joseph, no matter where he was at. But he also told Joseph in previous scriptures before this that he said that his mother and his brothers will worship him. Okay. I don't want to go there for the sake of time, but yeah. So he's always been, the Most High have always been with the brother and always blessed the brother. And that's why he said that he was a prosperous man. Go ahead.
And he was in the house of his master, the Egyptian.
Mm-hmm.
And his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord made all that he did to prosper in his hand.
Exactly. And that's what's going to happen with us.
You was right. The
Ishmaelites.
Ishmaelites took him out.
Mm-hmm. But the Ishmaelites, okay. It's right here, Ishmaelites. Okay, that's cool. So here we are. I say he was a prosperous man, but then immediately they seen that the Most High was with him. So now we read earlier where the Most High said that he will always have his covenant with Israel. So understand this, as we move forward in this, whatever is about to go down in our lifetime, we got to remember that the Most High made this covenant with the children of Israel, and he's going to make sure that we're prosperous. And also, he's going to get us out of certain situations. He's going to maneuver and get us. I don't know what it may be, but this is how the faith comes in. Okay. Start at 2 again.
Verse 2. And the Lord was with Joseph, and he was a prosperous man, and he was in the house of his master, the Egyptian.
Mm-hmm.
And his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord made all that he did to prosper in his hand.
Mm-hmm.
And Joseph found grace in his sight, and he served him, and he made him overseer. He made him overseer over his house,
Mm-hmm.
and all that he had to put into his hand.
And put into his hands. So even before Joseph, when you read a little bit further, when he became Pharaoh's right-hand man, he was already conducting, managing, setting things in order at Potiphar's house. Already he was structuring, and already the Most High was blessing him. Okay. Read on a little bit more.
Verse 5. And it came to pass from the time that he had made him the overseer in his house and over all that he had,
Mm-hmm.
the Lord blessed the Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake.
Now, see, the Most High blessed the Egyptians. Same thing he did with America, because the children of Israel, the majority of the children of Israel is here in the northern hemisphere. The Most High has blessed America. That's why America, at least I believe, that's why America is so prosperous, because of us. This covenant that he made with us, it no matter what captivity we in, the Most High said that, you know what, all nations that had us in captivity were prosperous, period. So here we are now in America. They're doing whatever they need to do, and other nations are jealous of America, down throughout the years, but they're trying to break it up. So as they continue to try to break up America, the children of Israel are still here, though. It's still here. And the Most High said he would never break his covenant. So we're going to continue to prosper until it's time for him to come and deliver us. Okay. Stay in Genesis, and let's get, just skip down to 20.
Verse 20.
Yep.
And Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison.
Okay. Yeah. Because I don't want to read all. What happened was Potiphar's wife tried to seduce Joseph. And Joseph rejected her. So what she did was she claimed that Joseph tried to rape her. So when it came back to Potiphar, Potiphar said, you know what? He believed his wife. The whole night. Maybe we should read that. We got a little time. Let's go back. Let's see. Pick it up at let's go back. Let's pick it up at 9. No. Let's pick it up at 6. Yeah.
Verse 6. And he left all that he had in Joseph's hand, and he knew not aught he had, save the bread which he did eat. And Joseph was a goodly person and well favored.
Mm-hmm.
And it came to pass after these things that his master's wife cast her eyes upon Joseph, and she said, lie with me. But he refused, and said unto his master's wife, behold, my master wotteth not what is with me in the house, and he had commanded all that he had to my hand.
Mm-hmm. To his hand. So here she is. She didn't took a like him. Why not? Because the Most High made him prosperous, and we know most women, they like men with power. So she's seeing this man like, wow, this dude is doing everything for my household, for my husband. You know, he's managing things. I mean, her husband put everything into his hands. Plus, they say he was a goodly man as well. So he was attractive. Okay, go ahead.
There is none greater in this house than I.
So he said, there's none greater in this house than I. Even more, emphasis on how his persona was. And she wanted him, period. Go ahead.
Neither hath he kept back anything from me but thee, because thou art his wife. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God?
Right. Now he said sin. So he must have knew the law, right? And not only that, but as you read in other books in the Bible, they tell you that the other nations knew better too. They knew that adultery, not to sleep with another man's wife. Okay, go ahead.
And it came to pass that she spake to Joseph day by day.
By day. So this woman was like every day pounding the brother, coming after the brother. Okay, go ahead.
That he hearkened not unto her, to lie by her, or to be with her. And it came to pass about this time that Joseph went into the house to do his business, and there was none of the men of the house there within.
Now she's scheming. She's sitting back. She's scheming. Go ahead.
And she caught him by his garment, saying, lie with me. And he left his garment in her hand and fled and got him out.
Mm-hmm.
And it came to pass when she saw that he had left his garment in her hand and was fled forth, that she called unto the men of the house and spake unto them, saying, see, he hath brought in a Hebrew unto us to mock us. Excuse me. He came in unto me to lie with me, and I cried with a loud voice.
Mm-hmm.
And it came to pass when he heard that I lifted up my voice and cried, that he left his garment with me and fled and got him out. And she laid upon his garment by her until his Lord came home.
All right, go ahead.
And she spake unto him according to these words, saying, the Hebrew servant which thou hast brought unto us, come in to mock me, come into me to mock me. And it came to pass as I lifted up my voice and cried, that he left his garment with me and fled out. And it came to pass when his master heard the words of his wife, when she spake unto him, saying, after this manner did thy servant to me, that his wrath was kindled. And Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison.
Okay, right there. So now one of the points I'm trying to make here is that so Joseph went into prison. So now with all that faith that Joseph had for the Most High, this is just a sequence of what was building up for him to take over Egypt. Go ahead.
Excuse me. And Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison, a place where the king's prisoners were bound.
Mm-hmm.
And he was there in the prison. But the Lord was with Joseph and showed him mercy and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison.
Now, how about that? So now he went from Potiphar's house being blessed. Now he's in jail, taking over the jail. So that's when I say that one of the notes I put down next to this, it said that in our trial and tribulations, if we find ourselves be put in jail for for this word, for uplifting our people, we find ourselves in certain situations where they say, what, these Israelites are against America, the Most High will have favor for us. Okay, and that's some of the things that we need to just maybe fall back on in our memory and say, okay, I know I'm in this situation, but through history, what happened to our people, the Most High is with us and he has that covenant with us. Okay, but so now Joseph then found favor with with one of the captains. I'm just to call him a captain that's in the prisons. And as we're going to continue to read, Joseph started running the prisons. Go ahead.
Verse 22. And the keeper of the prisons committed to Joseph's hand all the prisoners that were in the prison.
That's something. Get all the prisoners into his hands. So that lets you know that how that covenant and that faith, just no matter where our forefathers was at, that's where it was happening. The Most High was there to prosper and to give us that guidance and to show us that, what, I'm still with you. Even in these times that we're about to go into, I'm still with you. And then also we have to start looking at the blessings around us, because when that vid came out, that was a slight test of our faith, because they wanted you to take the medicine, right? And then a lot of us, if you didn't take the medicine, a lot of people throughout that time, lost their job and things like that. So we were looking at, okay, well, it's time for us to leave this job, but the Most High has. Okay, go ahead.
And whatsoever they did there, he was the doer of it.
See, and whatsoever they did in prison, Joseph was the doer of it. So now he left from Potiphar's to the prisons, and then from there, he's going to end up going into Egypt. Go ahead.
The keeper of the prison looked not to anything that was under his hand, because the Lord was with him.
Mm-hmm.
And that which he did, the Lord made it prosper.
Made it prosper. That's exactly what's happening now. What the camps are doing now, I believe, trust me, if brothers can come together and say, hey, have the Lord been blessing your camp? Have the Lord been blessed? I guarantee all of us will have a testimony to say, yes, he has. Yes, he have shown and given us faith and given us the knowledge and the wisdom and understanding of certain precepts and how things and even prophecy. You know, our core, and I think Ra'an's been going over the book of Daniel for the last 2 weeks. So they given, the Most High is giving that understanding of prophecy and how things are gonna go it's gonna go down. Just this morning, I gotta keep ragging on, don't shoot the messenger. And he went in, I think that was Ezekiel. Was that Ezekiel with the hook in the mouth? Okay, he went into Ezekiel saying that the Russians thinking they doing their own thing, but the Most High is dragging them back in. And then he said, Putin said, you know what? I'm willing to call truce. Let's come to the table and let's end this thing. But as the brother had brought out the prophecy that the hook is in his mouth and the Most High is dragging him back into this thing to a point where he's going to say, you got to protect you and your people. And if America keeps taunting this war situation, it's going to happen. Okay. 340.
40, verse 1.
Mm-hmm.
And it came to pass after these things that the butler of the king of Egypt and his baker had offended their lord, the king of Egypt. And Pharaoh was wroth against 2 of his officers, against the chief of the butlers and against the chief of the bakers.
So now the Most High is setting this thing up. So the baker and the chief and the butler. Okay, go ahead, throw them in prison. But now when they go into prison, remember Joseph is there running things. Okay, go ahead.
And he put them inward in the house of the captain of the guard into the prison, the place where Joseph was bound. Mm-hmm. And the captain of the guard charged Joseph with them, and he served them, and they continued a season inward.
So in a season inward. So all this time, and I had to look at a season. So Joseph was in there, I'm going to say like maybe a year or more. Okay, because it said a season. So I just kind of take that as a season as 1 year. But anyway, I could be wrong, but still, Joseph was still in prison. So that's why I said we have to wait on the Lord. We have to wait to see what's the result of you being in certain situations. Like I'm just talking, I take myself an example. If like you say, I'm put in prison, then this is what I'll reflect back on to find out, well, I'm here for a reason. The Most High put me in here for a reason, and not only that, but I know that he's going to take care of me while I'm in there, like he did Joseph. He said he was a prosperous man. Okay. Jump down to verse 21, because he put in there, but what happened was Joseph interpreted their dreams. Then as the dream came to fruition, I think it was the butler. Yeah, the butler was released. And then after he's been released, the baker, he got put to death. But we're going to find out how many years also that it took for him to recognize what Joseph had actually told him. Go ahead. Verse 21.
Verse 21. Mm-hmm. And he restored the chief butler unto his butlership again. Mm-hmm. And he gave the cup into Pharaoh's hand.
Okay. But
he hanged the chief baker as Joseph had interpreted to them. Mm-hmm. Yet did not the chief butler remember Joseph, but forgot him.
See, now he forgot him. After all of that, he forgot him. So let's go to 41, Genesis chapter 41, verse 1.
Verse 1. And it came to pass at the end of the 2 full years that Pharaoh dreamed.
Wait, it says the 2 full years. So now Joseph is still in jail. 2 full years. Go ahead.
That Pharaoh dreamed, and behold, he stood by the river. Mm-hmm. And behold, there came up out of the river 7 well-favored kind of fat-fleshed, and they fed in a meadow.
Skip to verse 8. So now it says 2 full years. Keep that in mind. Skip to verse 8.
Verse 8. And it came to pass in the morning that his spirit was troubled, and he sent to and called for the magicians of Egypt and all the wise men thereof. And Pharaoh told them his dream, but there was none that could interpret them unto Pharaoh.
Mm-hmm.
Then spake the chief butler unto Pharaoh,
Right
saying,
there. So he said, then said the chief butler. So now here's the chief butler, because he's terrified too, because this king of Egypt, he was putting people to death, throwing them in prison. Okay, so then now he feared them. So he was like, man, somebody got to interpret this dream. Go ahead. Verse 9.
Then spake the chief butler unto Pharaoh, saying, I do remember my faults this day. Pharaoh was wroth with his servants and put me inward in the captain of the guard's house, both me and the chief baker.
Right. So now he said, I remember my fault. 2 years later, he's going to think about Joseph now. Why? Because his butter's on the line. And the point I'm trying to make is just that the time period, we're not on, we understand that we're on the time period, but the Most High is not on the time period. So that faith, we're going to have to kick in. It's going to have to be strengthened. It's going to have to be nurtured. And it's going to have to, and how we nurture it is just going back throughout the history of the Bible and just see how the Most High works with the children of Israel. Now, a lot of us is going to perish, but those who survive, this is what we need to go back to. This is what we're going to have in our arsenal, in our minds, right? And in our spirits to say, the Most High got us. That's the faith that we're going to have to rely upon. And I'm talking to myself as well as I'm delivering this message, because I just see some real hard times coming down the line. So as far as preparing, yes, I got certain things that I call essentials that will get me through, a couple of months. I got certain equipment that will get us and help my people as well to get us through these tough times. But bottom line, as we say, we can prepare all day, but that faith had to kick in. It's gonna have to kick in. We talk about a black swan. So now let's say this bird flu gets out of hand, and they want everybody to start taking this medicine again, or else. See, being prepared, then you can say, well, you know what? At least I have a month or two to get by because I don't have a job now. And then community is very important, but that's why the Most High have different camps. We come together in community, and not only that, but we come together under the laws. And that's the most important thing about community. They can set their laws and set their ways of saying, like, this is just the right thing to do. But no, we know what the right thing to do. We know we got to implement our laws within our community. And then guess what? We're going to prosper even more with that. Okay. Was that 10?
Mm-hmm.
Read 10 again.
Verse 10. Pharaoh was wroth with his servants and put me inward in the captain of the guard's house, both me and the chief baker. And we dreamed a dream in one night, I and he. We dreamed each man according to the interpretation of his dream.
Mm-hmm.
And there was there with us a young man, an Hebrew, servant of the captain of the guard. And we told him, and he interpreted to us our dreams, to each man according to his dream he did interpret.
Mm-hmm. I think that's all I wanted right there. So that's what he did. So Joseph interpreted, and then long story short, you can go back and read it for yourself and how he interpreted the dream. And then Pharaoh was impressed. So Pharaoh did what? Pharaoh started to gave favor to Joseph, and then Joseph in return was blessed, continued to be blessed by the Most High, to a point where he was Pharaoh's right-hand man. And then he not only did he interpret the dream, but he also started preparing the Egyptians to prepare for the prophecy of what was going to happen. 7 years of plenty and 7 years of famine, right? And he gained his prosperity through that. So let's go to Hebrews. Hebrews chapter 11 and verse 8 and 10. Because I just wanted to bring that out. This is to show that the patience that the Most High have. Remember, he's not on a time schedule, right? But he has certain things set up where things have to take place. And then as things taking place, like he did with Joseph, he made them prosper. And not only he made them prosper, but he also found a way that Joseph and the 12 tribes was able to avoid the famine, build the family, because out of Egypt, there came great dynasties out of Egypt with the children of Israel. And then to the big ultimate thing is when he delivered us out of Egypt. Okay. Hebrews chapter 11 and verses 8.
Book of Hebrews chapter 11 and verse 8. By faith, Abraham, when he was called to go out into a place which he should after receive for an inheritance, obeyed, and he went out, not knowing whither he went. By faith, he sojourned in the land of promise, as in a strange country, dwelling in tabernacles with Isaac and Jacob, the heirs with him of the same promise.
Of the same promise. Okay, ahead.
For he looked for a city which hath foundations, whose builders and maker is God.
Who builder and foundation was the Most High. So by faith, this is what our forefathers did. By faith, the same way the faith that we're going to have once this agenda kicks off. We're going to have that faith in the Most High. We already see how they shut down certain brothers' social media platforms. They give them strikes, right? Then they take them down. So we open up another one under a new name. To eventually they're going to get tired of it and be like, it's time to gather them up. Because number one, they're giving hope to their people. Number two, they're leading their people back to the Most High. Because that's one thing about Israel. You got to reflect some pain on Israel before Israel starts to really come back and be true to the Most High God. It's all throughout history. Israel gonna go through either some death and pain in order for them to get right. Okay. Read on.
Verse 11. Through faith also Sarah herself received strength to conceive seed, and was delivered of a child when she was past age, because she judged him faithfully who had promised. Therefore sprang there even of one, and him as good as dead, so many of the stars of the sky in multitude, and as the sand which is by the seashore innumerable. These all died in faith, not having received the promise, but having seen afar off.
Right, and that's what we're doing. We haven't received the promise yet, but we see it afar off. That's why we do what we do. That's the reason why we respect the Sabbath day and the laws and the commandments, because we see this promise afar off. Okay, just like our forefathers did, but the Most High see them through as well. Go ahead.
And were persuaded of them, and embraced them, and confessed that they were strangers and pilgrims on the earth.
Right, pilgrims. Okay, so now I can ask around the room, do you feel like a pilgrim? Even though I know we're spoiled, because we are, we're in America, we're spoiled. We can, if you got the money, you can make certain things happen. But like I said, it's going to come a time where those things are going to be cut off. Okay. And then we're really going to feel like pilgrims in the land. Because of why? Because there's so many things that's going to happen that's going to be taken away from us that we used to. That faith is going to have to kick in, period. Okay. Be pilgrims on the ground. Go ahead.
For they that say such things declare plainly that they seek a country.
And we do. We seek a country. We don't seek this country. We've always wanted to know, at least I definitely want to know about Jerusalem. I got this one app where I can actually see live cam at Jerusalem. And I'll be like looking at them like, you know what? I don't feel nothing. It's because of so many captivities and how long we've been over here that Jerusalem is not even a thought in our people's mind. But here we are, is a country that we seek for. Verse 14.
Verse 14. For they that say such things declare plainly that they seek a country. And truly, if they have been mindful of that country from whence they came out, they might have had opportunity to have returned.
To have returned, right? And that's what we don't. We want to have return. We want that promise of returning. But in the process, we're not going back to that Jerusalem that's there now. Scriptures that we're going to get down into Revelations about this new Jerusalem that we're hoping for and praying for. Let's get the book of Romans. So by faith, our forefathers accomplished all of these things. The Most High was true to them, even to death, right? And here we are, thousands of years before Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, and that covenant and that promise is still with us. All right, Romans chapter 4, and start at verse 17.
Book of Romans chapter 4 and verse 17. As it is written, I have made thee a father of many nations, before him whom he believed, even God, who quickeneth the dead, and calleth those things which be not as though they were. Who against hope believed in hope, that he might become the father of many nations, according to that which was spoken. So shall thy seed be. And being not weak in faith, he considered not his own body now dead, when he was about 100 years old, neither yet the deadness of Sarah's womb. He staggered not at the promise of God through unbelief, but was strong in faith, giving glory to God.
Right, and giving glory to the Most High. And that's what's coming in the future for us. You know, we're going to have to give glory to the Most High once we walk through this agenda that our enemy has set and planned for us. You know, we're going to be very surprised. That's why I say this faith of Abraham that the scriptures are speaking about is the same faith that lies in us, because he said, thy seed. He said, so shall thy seed. So that faith is still in us. That promise is still in us, that we are hoping for the Most High. That's why we send up our prayers. And that's what we're praying for. Continue.
Verse 21. And being fully persuaded that what he had promised, he was able also to perform.
And we're fully persuaded. We wear fringes on our clothes, right? We respect the dietary laws, respect the moral laws, we respect the holy convocations. So yes, read that again.
And being fully persuaded that,
right, being fully persuaded. We're being fully persuaded. We know who our enemies are, so we're being fully persuaded in this faith. Right now, what we have to do is just prepare a little bit physically to get us through. Go ahead.
What he had promised, he was able also to perform, and therefore it was imputed to him for righteousness. Now it is not written for his sake alone that it was imputed to him,
right?
But for us also.
Go ahead.
To whom it shall be imputed, if we believe on him that raised up Jesus our Lord from the dead, who was delivered for our offenses and was raised again for our justification.
And we do believe in Christ. You know, that was one of the questions that a lot of people, you know, have the stigma about Israelites, and they always ask, do you believe in Christ? Of course we do. We just don't believe in that white Christ. Okay, that we definitely believe in the Savior, and we also have a little, you know, let us say, controversy with the name Jesus. So all of those things that gives us that what do you say, persuade. So we're persuaded already. So now we're just building that faith. We're building that love for the Most High. Okay, let's get Psalms chapter 40. Because I just wanted, like I said, it's just a message to bring out to our people that something for us to fall back on when this time comes, because it's coming. It's coming. We got what, 6 months? This is June. So we 6 months into this year, right? And once again, I have to say it again, enjoy this summer. This is the time to prepare. Buy a little extra. Let's not get caught up in, you know, having a good time, but to actually go over your inventory. You know, buy certain things that you think that you may need if the lights go out. Okay. Buy certain things if you feel that, you know, that the inflation is going to skyrocket, because it's funny because anybody look at the gas prices lately? Gas prices that went down. It went down at first, it was like 10 cents, then it went down 20 cents. I think they're down about maybe 40 cents right now, because they want you to enjoy this summer. They want you to, and you better take advantage of it, because after that, like you say, since Saudi Arabia is not going to renew that contract, look, the majority, I forgot what percentage of oil that comes out of Saudi Arabia, I think Put it this way, they are the massive oil producers. Okay, look it up. There you go. So you quick with the thing. What percentage does Saudi Arabia provide for the world? See, I got to get like Q with them little fingers with them computers there. What I say, Psalms 40? Mm-hmm. Yeah, Psalms 40. Quick on the draw. I want to say it's about 80% that Saudi Arabia provides for the world. I know they are one of the number one producers, but they may be the number one producer.
You say how many millions of barrels a day that they produce?
Uh-huh. See, Q, he didn't tap in the crystal ball. He know how to work that crystal ball real good. He bring up the facts quick. That's what I got to work on. Got to work on bringing up them facts because, we up against AI, and AI gonna help you too. And that's one thing me and Rasha always talk about. AI is gonna turn around and backfire on them. All that information they give, AI don't know how to lie. This is gonna tell you what you actually. And when that happens, I think they're scared of that as well. Does it get percentage? Well, don't worry about it. Yeah, but how many?
40-something%, I believe, and then with the BRICS, it went up to damn
80%.
With other nations combined, but as I remember seeing, they do like 43, 47%, something like that. But then with the BRICS, the other nations that will produce, it went up to that like 80%.
See, 80%. Now we know America has their oil as well, but I'm gonna tell you something. It's everything has a limit to it, right? So they can keep pumping and pumping and pumping till the well runs dry, okay? But Saudi Arabia can keep pumping and pumping, and the Most High blessed them with that land over there, where they're able to become them 12 princes that the scriptures talked about that Ishmael will possess. Okay.
It said OPEC nations, which is the Ishmaelites, were the source of 70% of U.S. total petroleum imports and the source of 85% of U.S. crude oil imports. That was in 1977.
Okay.
When they, signed that deal.
So we talking, we talking 80%, 70%, like you said, and that was during the time, he said back in the 70s. But you got to remember now, as time went on, we started getting more and more demand for oil. When they start producing, the cities started getting bigger, cars as well as buildings. Oil is in everything. Everything. Okay. So with that percentage of back in the 70s, I'm quite sure that the demand is definitely higher now. So as we see, the gas prices are low now, a little bit lower, out here. That let you know that, hey, as soon as this election is over with, keep your eye on it, and you're gonna see it is pop. It's gonna pop. May go up to about $7, $8 a gallon out here in California. Because we was looking at that. What was that about 4 months ago? Yeah, the beginning of the end of last year, we was looking at it close to $6 a gallon. It was $6 a gallon, as a matter of fact. Okay. Go ahead, Art. What was that, 40? Psalm chapter 40, verse 4.
Book of Psalm chapter 40 and verse 4. Blessed is that man that maketh the Lord his trust.
Right. So now, blessed is that man that maketh the Lord his trust. Remember, we're dealing with faith right now, right? Our forefathers had the faith, and the Most High pulled them through. So blessed is the man that maketh the Lord his trust. Go ahead.
And respecteth not the proud, nor such as turn aside to lies.
See, and not turn to lies. This election, you're going to hear a whole lot of lies. I mean, a whole lot of lies. I mean, it's funny because he brought up the one with old Sloppy Joe, froze like a statue, and I was waiting. I'm glad you picked that up of the transformer that was there. I mean, the nerve. It's just, I mean, we know what time we're in when we start seeing that, and they had no problem. Everybody, yeah. A beard, you know what I'm saying? Full beard. You know, I mean, yeah. So we know that's why it says, "Blessed is the man that maketh the Lord his trust." Right? Okay, and turn aside to lies. So watch the lies that's coming out. And like you said before, I'm waiting for this debate. I'm just really waiting for this debate because I know Trump. Trump, he's gonna. I believe he's gonna go to a little personal too. They're gonna get personal as far as like he's gonna talk about his son, and I know Biden's gonna talk about he's a criminal. You know, so they're gonna go back and forth. I can't wait for this debate. Stay up that long. Yeah, exactly. Well, they're gonna juice them up, like you said. They're gonna juice them up. You know. But then once again, we ought to look at this thing as our, deliverance, man. When these things start to happen and they that flamboyant in front of our face like that, then the Most High, he's talking to us. He's talking to his children. Okay. Let's get Baruch. Baruch chapter 4. And it'll get 5. Yes, he's definitely talking to us. That Matthew chapter 24. It says, when the gospel has been preached all over the earth, then you should know the end of the times. It's kind of proclaiming it. 4 and 5 and 6.
Gotcha. Book of Baruch, chapter 4 and verse 5.
Mm-hmm.
Be of good cheer, my people, the memorial of Israel.
Hold on, let me see. That's 4 and 5. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
No, you're right. You're right.
I read 5 of them. Let's go to 4. My bad.
Now read. Go ahead.
O Israel, happy are we, for the things that are pleasing to God are made known unto us.
Mm-hmm.
Be of good cheer, my people, and the memorial of Israel. 6.
Yeah, go ahead.
You were sold to the nations, not for your destruction, but because you moved God to wrath. You were delivered unto the enemies.
See, we were delivered unto the end. We were sold unto them because of God's wrath. But now that the tide has turned. Now that the tide has turned, now the Most High is giving what? He's giving the wisdom and the knowledge and the understanding, right? So that we can come back to him. So go ahead.
Verse 7. For ye provoked him that made you by sacrificing unto devils and not to God. Ye have forgotten the everlasting God that brought you up, and ye have grieved Jerusalem. You have grieved Jerusalem that nursed you. For when she saw the wrath of God coming upon you, she said, hearken, O ye that dwell about Zion. God upon me great morning.
Right? Our mourning days is over with now. It's their mourning days. Now, 2/3, they're gonna have to go through it, but the 1/3 that the Most High is gonna preserve, this is our glory. This is our deliverance. Once again, we go back to Exodus. The Most High remind us from Genesis all the way through Revelations, and he reminds us of that great deliverance out of Egypt and how he dealt with us in the wilderness and told us not to forget. Okay, so yeah, those days are gone. The great days of mourning are gone for the 1/3. The 2/3, they still got an answer. Let's continue on. Let's get Jeremiah. That's all I wanted that. Look at the book of Jeremiah, chapter 29. Chapter 29. Keep Jerusalem in mind, because when I go right to Jerusalem in Revelation to find out which Jerusalem that the Most High have prepared for the children of Israel. Jeremiah chapter 29 and verse 14.
Book of Jeremiah chapter 29 and verse 14. And I will be found of you, saith the Lord, and I will turn away your captivity, and I will gather you from all the nations and from all the places whither I have driven you, saith the Lord, and I will bring you again into the place whence I caused you to be carried away captive.
That's right. And that's what he's doing now. By us keeping these holy days, we're showing our reverence back to our God. When we're actually delivering certain messages to our people and trying to keep our people focused on what? On the law, statutes, and commandments, then we're doing our job. That's deliverance from that captivity. That's more and more work that's on our book that we moving forward for our nation. Okay. So read 15.
Verse 15, because ye have said, the Lord hath raised us up prophets in Babylon.
In Babylon. Okay, let's go to let's go down Revelations. Let's get this New Jerusalem real quick. So these raise up prophets in Babylon. Prophets just mean messengers. Okay. Now, no hocus pocus, we just messengers. Revelations chapter 21, 1 and 2. Because we talk, it always mentions this Jerusalem. Let's find out what this Jerusalem is that he's preparing for us.
Book of Revelation, chapter 21, verse 1. And I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth were passed away.
So now we're talking about what we're dealing with right now has passed away. So that lets you know something big has to happen upon this earth. But guess what? The covenant and the children of Israel are covered already. Right? That's that faith that we have to have. Go ahead.
And there was no more sea.
And there was no more sea. Go ahead.
And I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem.
So now there's going to be a new Jerusalem, not the Jerusalem that's over there right now. The landmass, yes, but everything that's in Jerusalem is going to be turned upside down. Go ahead. New Jerusalem.
Coming down from God out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband.
For her husband. And that's what he's doing. He's preparing us, right? But he's preparing us within so that we will be able to accept it. Skip down to 10.
Verse 10. And he carried me away in the spirit to a great and high mountain, and showed me that great city, the holy Jerusalem, descending out of heaven from God.
See, descending out of heaven from God. And that's a promise that the Most High has put in the book of Revelation as far as prophecy. But I just can't wait to that day. Because as we know right now, it's already been started over there in the Middle East. You know, it's just a matter of them escalating. And then from there, kaboom. Here we are. But there's wars all over this, this continent. You know, you got Russia, you got Jerusalem over there, you got over in Africa, there's wars going on there. You know, you got wars that's gonna go here after this election. You know, people plotting, and then they plotting to kill us out of all things. Why don't they just leave us alone? We've been over here long enough. Just leave us alone. But they can't. They can't. It's prophesied. Right? My last scripture, it's still a Timothy. 1 Timothy, chapter 4, and verse 15. See what the Most High tells us to do. 1 Timothy, chapter 4, and verse 15 to 16.
The book of 1 Timothy, chapter 4, and verse 15. Meditate upon these things.
What did he say to do?
Meditate upon these things.
See, meditate upon these things. You know, I had put, that's why I brought out like the videos right up front, right? So that we can understand like, okay, there's something going on. And people are screaming for the top of their lungs, saying that, you know what, you need to prepare financially as well as spiritually, that you need to prepare. So he says, meditate. Go ahead.
Meditate upon these things. Give thyself wholly to them, that thy profiting may appear to all. Take heed unto thyself and unto the doctrine. Continue in them.
Right. So he says, take heed unto thyself. Meditate and take heed unto the doctrine. And the doctrine is simply the Bible. It's simply the laws and the commandments that the Most High left us. Go ahead.
Continue in them. For in doing this, thou shalt both save thyself and them that fear thee.
And them that
fear thee.
Okay. So he said, in both they shall save. Read that from the top again.
Meditate upon these things. Give thyself wholly to them, that thy profiting may appear to all. Take heed unto thyself and unto the doctrine. Continue in them.
Continue in them. Go ahead.
For in doing this, thou shalt both save thyself and them that hear thee.
And that's what we want to do. You know, we trying to save ourselves. So that's why we continue on to bless and bring this message on the Sabbath day. That's why we continue on to watch and to set up the calendar for, you know, the holy days that come around, because we want to show ourselves worthy to the Most High. That he's given us the understanding that of ourselves, put it the way, of ourselves as well as our nation. So as the scripture said in Timothy, it says, meditate upon these things. You know, and with that, I say shalom. Enjoy the rest of your Sabbath, Israel. And enjoy the summer.